Hi there, it's Denise Eckert from the Relaxation Lounge. And I love coming on here and sharing techniques and ideas to lower the stress in your life because you know what? Stress is not good for any one of us. And today I've got Vanja Beric. And what she is, she's a counselor who helps others build their own self belief. She's an entrepreneur who wants to empower women that no matter what your past is, you get to choose your future. Now, her philosophy is understanding yourself, healing your wounds, will give you a deep freedom, love, and abundance you never knew possible. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Now, I'd love to hear your story because I know in your bio you said you went through a lot of traumatic experiences and now you've turned around to help women. Could you share the story that brought you to this path to help women?
Yes, absolutely. How I came to be a counselor is because I went through my own counseling journey, and my life I really didn't know what was possible. In a way, I was very limited by my own beliefs, by the beliefs of, the community that I grew up in, the trauma that I grew up in, because like many people, I come from a country where we don't do therapy. So it's very much kind of the card you dealt, you know, that's what you have. It's kind of like potluck. When I went to counseling and I started healing wounds and I started really, changing some of the ways that I look at things, understanding how, where I'm sabotaging myself and where the limits come in, that really changed my life. And the reason why I went to therapy is because I grew up, so I come from Yugoslavia, what used to be Yugoslavia, and I grew up in a war zone and I've experienced a lot of abuse. And when I was about in my teenage years, which by this point we were ready, so we refuged to Australia. So we were out of the war zone and things like that. But I really, when sort of things stopped moving, that's when I started noticing all the side effects. And then I especially started noticing them sort of out of in my early 20s that, I would just look at people that I would work with and I just felt different. I felt it's kind of like we weren't on the same level or the same playing field, that we were in the same race, but it felt like, I was dragging a rock behind me and they were just all running, to the same spot. It's like, well, and honestly, that's what it felt like. There was a point where I just thought, I can't do this any longer. I really need help. And something needs to change. And so it was literally that day that I jumped on Google and I found a counselor, and that's how it started.
Wonderful. Yeah, it is hard going forward when you've got all these traumas in the past and the fear that you must have experienced.
Yes, yeah, it's really it it weighs you down, and it really does feel like, you have ton of rocks, or a very heavy weight on your shoulders. And it also, now, that I've gone through the study and been counseled for many years, I understand how trauma impacts us physically as well, with the lack of concentration, memory, trouble sleeping, lack of digestion, just, those different triggers that we have. I now understand in terms of, why I was always behind in a race, why I was always just trying to catch up. And really is so fascinating in terms of, a lot of the I guess, like things like ADD and even things like dementia can be a side effect of trauma, which, I found fascinating once I started studying about it. Absolutely, it can slow us down in a way. And it's that's why I work so hard in sharing my story and in helping women to let go of that weight, to just, cut that cord and let go so they can move forward with their whole might, as opposed to dragging years of pain with them.
Now, what are some of the steps that you can take to heal that trauma?
Yeah. So one of the first steps that, where we start is creating that awareness. So creating, and when we talk about trauma, I mean, there are obviously different levels of trauma. And in my opinion is that everyone has experienced some type of trauma. And it's kind of what in a way, what shapes us is, makes us who we are. And so really understanding and having an awareness of when we are being triggered, and how does our past impact our future? Because once we're aware of it, we can do something about it. So creating that awareness, and then there is, different exercises we can do, there's talk therapy and different ways that you can approach, I guess, different areas, so that you can heal those wounds, so you can, I guess, close that chapter and start writing something new.
Wonderful. Now, what have you experienced with your clients?
What do you mean?
What are the benefits once you do start dealing with the trauma in your life and going forward?
Yeah, so I love that question. So one of the things that I notice quite a lot is for people who have experienced trauma, which I said is majority of the population, we kind of, depending on what type of trauma we have, and especially if the trauma comes from unconscious parenting. So, really, the parents struggling to meet your emotional needs as a child, and in whatever way that comes through. And, even if it's abuse, that, I guess the first step as a parent is to meet the child's emotional needs, or physical needs, and then emotional needs. That can come through in terms of, when we're looking at relationships, attracting bad relationships, and attracting wrong partners, and even friendships, that, you attract a narcissist, just someone that we don't enter a relationship in a healthy way. And then the relationship itself is not healthy. There's no healthy expression of emotions or healthy expression of love. So one of the changes that I work with is not only to heal that relationship and heal the source of where it came from and why you are attracted to this particular type of people, but to change the mindset altogether, so that when you see those type of people, there's no attraction anymore, because we heal the wounds that, we think this person will satisfy for us, or the holes that we think this person will satisfy for us. And so we start attracting different type of people in our life and different type of relationships. So I love working with people who are on that path, and or single people who are looking for someone. I must say, that's kind of one of my favorites, because I really love the transformation of for women who have experienced abusive relationship, whether physical, verbal, whatever it is. And then once we work through it, and then I ask them the question, so if this person, and when we started, she was in love with him or her, and then once we finish up our session, I ask her, like, if that person was here now and said, I'll, let's be together, I'll give you everything that you want, and the client to say, no, I'm really, like, it's not even that I'm not interested, because I know it's not going to be healthy. It's just that I don't even find you attractive anymore. There's no, you're just another person in front of me. There's nothing there. And then really seeking the healthy relationships, that to me it's mind-blowing in terms of how our mind and how our past impacts us and how we can do to change it. But it's also wonderful to see the client where they move into healthy relationships, and obviously that then feeds them to, move into other healthy areas of their life, whether it's career or, personal growth or whatever it is.
And I find that too, like, when you are dealing with trauma in your life, you tend to punish yourself almost. Like, you number one, you attract those type of people that can be abusive or, demeaning, and you tend to do that over and over again. And it's almost like you're self-punishing.
Yeah, it can be so many things as to why you're choosing. One of the things that the studies have noticed is the brain really likes, or it feels safe in a familiar. So it doesn't feel safe in a safe situation. It feels safe in a familiar. because it's kind of like, okay, so I've been in that situation before, I know how to handle it. So if I fought a lion before, I know where the weak spot is. So the more I fight it, the more I know how to handle it. So that's one of the reasons why we keep attracting those type of relationships, because to the brain that feels safe, because it knows how to battle that. And I said one of the reasons, there are many reasons why we keep attracting them. So one of the things that I do is work on changing the way the brain thinks in a way, and changing those core beliefs so that the brain gets more comfortable with, healthy situations, and sort of it strives in that. And so once it's kind of like, once you tasted paradise, you always want to go there. So that's really what it's like. Once you experience that healthy love, once you know what it's like to receive love without conditions, and without the low lows, then obviously that, that's what you want. And that's kind of what we train the brain to slowly move towards the healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's scary that we do that to ourselves. And I'd like to talk a little bit about self-belief and what is the importance of us having self-belief?
Yes. So our self-belief is essentially that we believe that we can do anything. Now, if we had the power of that, for for the person listening, if you had the power of that you had the power of believing in yourself that you can do anything, what would you do, or what would you change? And that's really what it's about, whether it's getting out of an unhealthy relationship, whether it's moving, to a different career, whether it's moving to a different country because that's something that you always wanted to do, but you felt tethered to the place that you're in, or creating boundaries and things like that. So it's really about having that deep belief in yourself, peeling all the layers off, finding that radiance within yourself, because we all have that flame that that burns. And for some people, because of the amount of layers that they have on, the flame sometimes just flickers. So what I work on is really pulling all those layers back, so you as a person can shine, and your authenticity can shine.
And now what steps can you take to get to that point?
To get to the point of strong self-belief, I work on different things. So I work on healing those wounds, working through the steps. That's really one of the important ones. We build that trust in yourself, because and I found this quite interesting, and there's some studies around this as well. So in Australia, we have these birds, they're called magpies, and when it's magpie season, they fly quite low. So if you walk past where there's a nest, it will fly very low to attack you. So basically, and even you're nowhere near the nest, but it really flies, and it has really sharp beaks, so it can really ping you in the head kind of thing. And I was terrified of them. So, and I was just, I really, if I saw that, so you usually, once you walk past, they attack you. And once you keep walking past, it kind of like they remember you. So they attack you even, further away. So I would really avoid those areas when where they were, because I was terrified of them. And now, I have a 3-year-old, and now for some reason they attack kids more than they do adults. And once it came to protecting her, it was like, I don't care if it was a dragon, I would have slayed it, anything to protect your child. And that is why it's so important to have that belief, because it just shows how strong we are if we have to be. And sometimes we don't believe in our own strength. Sometimes we don't see, everything that we've gone through, and don't see how much we can actually handle. So one of the things that we work through is building that strength, or showing you and the brain, how strong you really are. So doing exercises that will keep proving your strength. So it's kind of like going to the gym and, lifting heavy weights. So building those brain muscles, to build to that strength, and really show what you can actually handle, and whatever it is that you're afraid of is really not as strong as you are. So one of the things is healing the wounds and then building that strength. And really then once we've done those two things, is taking inventory of where you are and where you want to be and how we can get you there.
Wonderful. So we're going to start wrapping this up. So I understand you have some free resources to share from your website. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you jump on my website, www.vanjaberic.com, you can download some resources. So if you're suffering or if you're working through procrastination or, something that comes up a lot for you, and there's a resource on how to master it. There is some resources on how to find your voice. And if you are suffering from stress or burnout or anything like that, there's an amazing resource on how to deal with self-care. And I also have a community on Facebook called Radiant Women. And we are really in there. We work on doing, and it's absolutely, so the community is free. And we work on doing those things, what we just talked about. So healing those wounds, creating that belief in yourself or recognizing your own strength, and then building a path to where you want to go.
Wonderful. So what are your last words to the audience today to help them move forward?
One step at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And if you want to ask Vanja some questions, I will have all her contact information, wherever you're listening to this interview. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode. If you're looking for more ways to reduce the stress in your life, please visit www.therelaxationlounge.info. Here I've got access to a free Facebook page where you can get support, information on the podcast where I interview different individuals who share their techniques to help you reduce your stress, plus a membership that you can join where you can come and do stress-reducing practice on demand anytime you need to reduce the stress in your life and create more happiness in your world. I'll see you in the lounge.